So let's make some cake. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this Black Forest cake, and I call it the Kenyan Black Forest because it's not like any Black Forest I've had anywhere. It doesn't have cherries, but it is super tasty. Just cake, cream, strawberries, all the good stuff. I decided to repurpose my grandmother's sponge cake recipe. I think I posted it on YouTube, I'm not sure. I must have. But yeah, so I've repurposed that a bit to make this sponge cake. So starting off, I'm adding 6 whole eggs. There is no oil or butter in this recipe. Shocker, right? But don't be too shocked. It still turns out really nice. As always, I will put the exact measurements in the box below, so be sure to check that out there. So I've added sugar as well to my eggs, and all you need to do now is just get whipping. If you're doing this by hand, you're gonna be here for a while. So I highly recommend you use a machine or a hand mixer. An electric hand mixer, definitely recommended for this. So while that's going, I'm adding some cocoa powder, unsweetened cocoa powder, and some all-purpose flour. And I'm also adding a lot of baking powder. Please don't be shocked. This does work. And you can use this recipe to make Swiss roll as well, in case you're wondering. So just give everything a good whisk. This just adds some fluffiness to your flours. And after a few minutes, you'll find your egg and sugar mixture has become very pale, and it's got life, it's fluffy and beautiful, and it's like a cloud that you just want to stick your head into. At least I do. Anyway, moving on. So just grab this beautiful cloudy batter that you now have. Let me remind you, this is just eggs and sugar, so please don't go eating it. And try and keep your kids, away from it if you can. And then just add the cocoa powder, flour mixture you've made, and you want to add a little bit at a time and fold it in. We're trying not to lose too much of the air bubbles we have in there going on. That's what's going to make the cake extra special and nice and moist. So take your time with this, fold it in gently. I'm not really folding it in yet. At this point, I'm just kind of getting the process going. So you just want to add a little flour at a time. I'd say even about a quarter to a half a cup of flour at a time. And take your time. I've said time so many times. There needs to be a counter here. But anyway, so just take your time and slowly, gently fold it in. This process could take you 10 minutes, so please don't rush it. Just go slow. And once you've folded in all your flour mixture into the eggs, you're good to go to the next step. So I've already greased my pan, and I've actually added some parchment paper or baking paper at the bottom just as an extra measure. You want to add your batter there. If you've got 2 cake tins, definitely use both of them for this process. I didn't. One of my cake tins is missing. It's at my friend's house. So if you know yourself, please bring my cake tin back. Anyway, you want to just bake it at 180 degrees for about 30 minutes. So while that's doing that, we're gonna cut up our beautiful strawberries. And strawberries are hit and miss in Oman. That's one thing I really miss about Kenya and Switzerland as well. You get really nice fresh strawberries, and they're almost always sweet. So once you've sliced them up, you want to add about, I'd say 3 tablespoons of sugar, and just let that sit. The sugar is going to pull out all that sweet juice from your strawberries, and you definitely want that. So once your cake is baked, don't overbake it. That's very important to note, because if you overbake it, it's going to dry. So as soon as a skewer comes in clean when you test it, as soon as that happens, take your cake out, and you want to just put it on a rack or a cooling rack so that it can cool down fast. And I actually cut into the cake while it's still warm because I don't want it to dry out. So that's a very important step. One other thing I like to do is I just use a skewer or even just a fork or knife, and I make a couple of holes here and there. And the syrup that I get from the strawberries, I then pour into that. I didn't get too much today. So if you have the same scenario happening, you can make your own sugar syrup and add that as well. Or sometimes even just melt some jam, apricot jam, and just add a couple of tablespoons on top. And then cut the cake. So I've got some thick cream here, I'm using the Almarai cream, full fat, for anybody who's asking or wants to ask, if you're in the Middle East at least. And I've added some sugar to the cream. I'm not adding too much because I've already added a decent amount of sugar to the cake and the strawberries as well. And you just want to whip your cream until soft peaks form, and then separate the cream into 2 batches. Okay, that's another important thing to remember. So we're gonna mix 1 batch of cream with the strawberries, like I'm doing here. So that is what we're gonna use to sandwich it into the cake. And the other mix will be used to put on top of the cake once we've covered it. You wanna be very generous when you're adding your cream. So make sure you have enough cream. I would say, I think I used about 600 ml of cream here, so you definitely need a decent amount because you don't want your cake to be dry in any way. The goal here is to get a very moist cake. So once you've added your layers on top and sandwiched all the strawberries inside, you can add the cream that doesn't have any strawberries and completely cover your cake. I like to put more cream on the top and then kind of reduce the cream on the sides so you can see some of the layers. I think it looks rustic and beautiful, and that's just my style. If you want to decorate the sides, you definitely can. And I recommend using a 70% cocoa chocolate bar, grate it and add that on top. It just makes it taste so much better, and you can garnish with some strawberries if you have any extra on hand. You can even put the strawberries on the side of the cake if you want. You can even sprinkle chocolate on the side of the cake if you want. I leave that to you. This is just my preference. I like things to look nice and rustic. So from this point, I would suggest you put your cake, in the fridge for at least an hour. Or if you're in a cold environment, you can just leave it on your countertop. The goal here is you want the cream and the strawberries, everything to kind of seep into the sponge mix and makes the cake so much better. It gets better with time with this cake. But definitely take it out of the fridge like 20 minutes before you serve so that it comes to room temperature a bit. Otherwise it won't taste so good. So yeah, that's basically it. I hope I was as detailed as possible so that you can end up with a slice of goodness from home. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer. I always take my time to answer whatever I can. And yeah, that's it. Extra cream has to be there on the side for serving because the more cream, the merrier. And that is what we want. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye!